And we are live. Hello. Hi, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So how old is your oldest child? I'm very curious to see about the comparison between your motherhood and your astrology journey.
So my oldest is 19, and then I have a middle child who's 13. She's a Pisces, so she'll be 14 next month. And my youngest just turned 9 in December, so she's a Sag.
Oh my goodness. And when did you pick up astrology for yourself?
So astrology was something that I was always interested in. I remember even as a teenager, I would look up my horoscope. I was into looking, into my moon and my rising sign, but that's really all that I knew. So it was something I knew that I was passionate about for my entire life. But it was around the time when I was pregnant with my youngest that I really got into it. And it's really interesting about pregnancy because with my middle child, when I was pregnant with her, that's when I first got into reading about, psychics and empaths and, ghosts and just reading books and just researching on things like that. And then with my next pregnancy, it was all about astrology. The whole time I was pregnant, I just studied and researched. So it's really cool, how the connection with the child kind of brings things forth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you said that the middle child was a Pisces and you were interested in everything behind the veil, all of the otherworldly stuff. And then the great attractor is actually in Sagittarius, in tropical Sag, and you had a Sag baby pulling you towards that life path.
Exactly. It's so cool how that works. It's like you're tapped into their energy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a mom and you're a mom, and we're both professional astrologers. Both of us have been doing this for most of our lives as a hobby, and we both got to turn it into careers. You a little ahead of me. And both of us have been able to utilize, and actually I find it I don't know about you, but to me, it's one of my biggest tools in my tool belt as a parent when I am trying to relate to my child, when I'm trying to understand my child, when I'm trying to help them, when I'm trying to check in on them, especially if they're being distant, is I can look at their chart and the transits and it helps it make sense. It helps it bring it home and ground it and helps it figure things out. So I honestly think that having that element, having that tool in my tool belt to be able to help my kids, it makes all the difference as a parent, especially in the more strained relationships when things are really hard. So I have a child with some disabilities. I have a child with a disconnected parent alienation situation. I have another child who, those are my oldest boy and my oldest girl. And then I have two other children. I have 4 kids altogether. And my 2 other children are both Mercury ruled children. They both have Virgo placements, which sits right across from my solar placement. So they emulate things and bring out things in me a whole different way.
Right.
But being able to understand your kid's chart is probably one of the best ways to remind yourself that this is a little human you're raising. It's not a child. It's not a pet. It's a little person who's going to go off and take on the world at one point. And they came with their own set of karmas. They came with their own set of experiences that they need to go through, including relationships to their other parent, relationships to their siblings. It's a super blessing, especially when you're looking at children who have some challenges. And I mean, all kids have challenges, but the ones that face the harder challenges that can't maybe articulate what they need, especially at the younger years and younger stages, being able to look at their chart gives you so many tools on how to support them better.
Yeah, honestly, it's literally life-changing to have that available, because it's before I was into astrology like I am now, with my older children, it was difficult because it was hard to understand what was going on a deeper level. And, children being children, they don't really know how to communicate that to you. You know what I mean? So it's kind of you have that psychic connection to your kids, but with the astrology, you can literally look and see exactly what's going on, exactly what karma they're here to work through, you know, different ancestral patterns that they're emulating coming from you and you know, the grandparents and everything like that. So it's absolutely life changing. I don't know how I would do it without the astrology. I'm just, you know, I'm so grateful that I'm able to kind of, you know, like you said, for the transits, my youngest right now, she has Mars conjunct her Pluto and Pluto conjunct her Mars. And then we have Mars transit Mars conjunct her Pluto. And she's been throwing tantrums, you know, she's been really going through it. And, you know, having the understanding that, you know, this is what's happening, you know, you don't get so frustrated. You're not like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? What's wrong with my child? Why is she so angry? You look at the chart and you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So let me find a way that we can work through this, you know, so that we can work through this together, so that we can sit down and, you know, find ways that we can figure out how to help.
Absolutely. That is a heavy transit. Oh my goodness. And with Pluto being involved in that, that's huge on a generational level. Like what she's going through now, she's going to take with her.
Exactly. And I'm going through Pluto transits right now myself. So it's kind of just this like big Pluto mess that I'm dealing with right now. But we're clearing so much as a family. It's a beautiful thing.
Amazing. Have you ever noticed any alignments between your children? Do they share any placements with you or grandparents or anything like that?
I've noticed a lot of patterns in between the charts of my parents and myself and my children. There's a lot of Taurus energy in our family. There's a lot of Cancer energy, a lot of Leo energy. You know, you pull up the charts and you can see how different things connect. And my sister actually just had a baby yesterday. So I pulled up that chart obviously immediately to see what was going on there. And it was really cool to see how his chart connected with his mother and father's chart. So that's really cool to look at. It can help you to kind of understand deeper patterns and deeper karmic cycles that are going on between yourselves and, you know, your children and your parents. It's really cool.
Yeah, there's this corner of TikTok for gentle parenting, and on that there's a lot of conversation about how when you're dealing with a child and you're getting frustrated or you're getting triggered, it's an opportunity to look at your own childhood and look at the stories you tell yourself and look at the narratives that you were convinced of and the programming you were put in. And children are here as soulmates. They are here to remind you of where your potential lies and what wasn't necessarily done right for you.
Right. And I find for myself, looking at my 3 children, it's like my oldest holds certain aspects of myself that I'm learning and working through. And then my middle child has different aspects of myself that I'm learning and working through. And then with the youngest as well, it's like they're all just little yous, but in different ways. So they can help you to kind of see things about yourself. And, you know, isn't that the whole point, is to become more self-aware so that you can be a better parent, you know? So I think that's really cool. Because I was watching Vikings the other night, and I was like, I looked at how, you know, Ragnar's 4 sons were just different versions of Ragnar at different parts of his life. And I was like, you know what, I can apply that to my life as well.
Yeah, we see that with motherhood a lot. There's and I don't know where the studies are on this, but I've seen it quoted on multiple occasions that whatever the mother's going through at the time of pregnancy directly relates to how the baby's disposition is going to be, which makes a lot of sense because we see that with the 12th house, right? We see that with that subconscious experience that you have as a infant in the womb. They do, like the ancients do speak about how mother is seen in the 4th house, but the pregnancy itself is seen in the 12th. My mother, for instance, she experienced a lot of trauma. She was actually like jumped when she was pregnant at one point in the subway, and she had her teeth punched out. Like, so there was some pretty serious things that happened to my mother. And I have Mars and Saturn conjunct in Scorpio in the 12th house with Pluto. So like she was afraid for her life and there was constant trauma for her. And so that is something that I've constantly had to play out in my life. Hello, Maiko. Thank you for coming in. So when you look at a child's chart and you look at their ascendant and their 12th house, you can get a really good idea of what mom was going through and how that how that shaped this child's identity and their persona. And really, whatever is going on in the 12th house on any birth chart shows you things you're closing out of. So anything mom's going through in her pregnancy is something that the child or the native of the chart is going to be closing out in this lifetime. That's something they're finalizing in this lifetime. And that's why it happened to them during a pregnancy when they were in utero.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to see that. And then with the ascendant as well, that can relate to the birthing process. Like, for example, I have Pluto squaring my ascendant, and my mom had a very, very difficult birth. And that, birthing process had affected myself and her for our entire lives until we were able to get to the core of why that was and actually, bring that to the surface to heal it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. My children, all of them have very interesting charts. My son actually has a sun in the 12th house, and it's in Scorpio. He has Mars in Sagittarius right on the ascendant. He's the only one that gave me a painful birth. And it was because he burnt me. Like I had to have an episiotomy. I'm probably saying that wrong. I had to have like surgical interventions with him, and that's Mars right on the ascendant. He heated me so much that they had to put me in ice they had to surround ice all over me. And I came out with this fiery Sagittarius rising baby with Mars on the ascendant.
Yeah. See how that makes so much sense? That's awesome.
And it was intense. It was so scary. And it was like a 3-hour labor. Like Mars, right? Super fast.
Yeah, it's like my middle child, she has Pluto right on her ascendant. Well, it's like 2 degrees in the 12th house, actually. And it was a very difficult birth. She came like 3 weeks early, and there was all kind of issues going on when she was born. So it's really cool.
So a lot of fear. So there would have been a lot of fear, right? Pluto does represent our like unconscious fears come surface, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I had high blood pressure during that. So everyone was kind of in panic mode and like shooting me up with Pitocin to get the birth going quicker. And yeah, it's crazy how you can see that in the chart. My oldest and my youngest birth was very easy. And hers, she has Jupiter in the first house. She was like this huge blessing for the entire family and like brought so much light and joy into our lives and at a time when it was very much needed. And my oldest is an Aquarius rising. Her birth was actually pretty smooth. She doesn't have anything in the 12th or the 1st. So it was a pretty smooth birth.
Pretty standard, mom had figured it out by then, right? So the Aquarius energy has father influence being questionable though, right? Whenever Aquarius that's the fall of the sun. So was there like a shift in the parental kind of change after that child was born?
Well, later on he actually passed away, but that was when she was older. And she has moon she has moon in the 8th house as well. So yeah, it could have been that. You know what? There was a lot that went on. That makes a lot of sense. He actually got addicted to drugs right after she was born. So it was the fall of the father. And then he ended up ODing a couple years later. So
that's insane.
Blessings
to you for getting through that. That's a heavy hand, Mama.
Oh yeah. We've been through it. Yeah. Today is actually his birthday. So happy birthday in heaven, James.
So I have an Aquarius daughter. She's the youngest, and she was the only one that came late. And I mean like 2.5 weeks late. I knew I was not going to have another baby. I knew this would be my last pregnancy. She gave me the absolute best pregnancy, and she let me have my perfectly planned home birth. Of all of my children, I had planned all of their births to a T. Mm-hmm. I have a Jupiter in Capricorn. Like it was my job to plan these births, but it wasn't until her that I got everything, notched every belt, but she refused to come. She was 2 weeks late. And my doula said, you got to have a conversation with her and tell her it's okay to come out.
Yeah, that's
You
time.
gotta have that conversation. She came within hours of that conversation happening, and she came out Sagittarius rising like myself. She and I, in our synastry, have so many of the same stars in activation through different planets, but like her sun is on my Mercury and her Mercury is on my Venus, and our ascendants are like 6 degrees away from each other. Like we have so many things that are almost identical that this was my last effort of creating something out of myself, and she is the most like me of all of my children.
That's cool that you say that, because my youngest, her ascendant is also in Leo, 4 degrees from mine. I wonder if that's a common thing.
Well, they do say that our first child seen in the 5th house, our second child seen in the 7th house, our third child in the 9th, and the 4th child in the 11th. Now, that's not to say that the sun will fall there or the moon will fall there, but you're going to want to look at the state of that house. So for me, I have my first child is born with an Aries. Well, she has a 29-degree Pisces moon, and I made her labor come early. I was so afraid. I went and pushed for induction, even though I didn't need it. I was so nervous. I was so unstable. I gave that child literally the most unstable moon, and she probably would have been born with a Taurus moon had I let her take her time. So right at 29 degrees of Pisces, right where my 4th house meets my 5th, that's where her moon is.
Yeah, so I have Aquarius, I have Uranus in my 5th house, and she came out in Aquarius rising, so that makes sense. With my 7th house, it's ruled by Aquarius, also was a Leo rising, but Pisces is right there as well. But for me, it's all in my 5th house. I have Uranus there, my Aquarius rising, and I have Neptune there for my Pisces, and it's ruled by Sagittarius, which is my Sagittarius.
Yeah.
I've never looked into the 7th house and all of that. I'll have to look deeper into that.
It's funny too. My daughter asked me, I have a daughter, my second child was born. She was very much like you had mentioned, one of your children kind of came in with that Jupiter frequency of being a blessing to the family. She was born with Mercury and the sun and Venus all in the 1st house, and Mercury and the sun are right on Virgo's ascendant, like right at the later degrees of just like 31st of August. So she's right in that Virgoan energy, and she literally came out just ready to pull sunshine. Like literally the sun was rising when she was born. It was right on the horizon, beautiful sunrise morning. She was planned to be a water birth, and she was like, you know what? I don't want a water birth. I'm an earth baby. You will have me on the couch. And I had to get out of the water. She was starting to come, and I was like, I can't be in here anymore. And they were like, okay, it's fine. Get up, go on the couch. It's fine. And she refused to be born in water. And she came out an earth baby. And she has a Taurus moon. Like the only thing she's got in water is a Jupiter Pisces. Everything else is fully earthy.
She was not having that. She's like, Mama, get me out of this water.
Yeah. Cool. And my water baby, my girl that did give me that water birth, that happy water birth, like all the way through that with hypnobirthing and everything else, she's got 5 planets in Pisces. Jupiter, she has Venus and Mars and Neptune and Chiron conjunct, because it was 2015. And that was a crazy transit. We had so much in Pisces. It was a snowstorm. Like it was just insanely beautiful night. She just had her little Aquarian birthday, and she came out so Pisces, like absolute Pisces. My son, who was planned to be a water birth, like I said, I had to get out of the water. I was so hot. I was overheating in the water that I had to have him on the land. And then on top of that, they had to give me surgeries, and he was born Scorpio sun, but a Sagittarius rising with Mars and Sag. So like my children, they knew their elements, and they refused to be born outside of the elements they were comfortable with.
Wow. That's really cool.
It's crazy. So I wanted to talk with you a bit about, we're already 20 minutes in. We could do this all day. I wanted to go with you and see if we can go on about each of the children, how raising the different and supporting the different elements is the easiest way. So one for each sign, maybe. I have like I said, I have a Pisces moon daughter, but she is very Aryan in the sense that she has a Leo sun and a Leo Saturn conjunct. She's a very independent child, and she's off doing her own thing already. She's almost 18 now. So she's been knowing what she wants and following her own path and carving her own path since she was like 10 years old. She was like, I'm going to live with dad. I'm going to do my thing. I don't agree with your parenting, and I have my opinion. And off she went. Very, very Leo sun Saturn energy, with that like loyalty to father. And she has a very Aryan way about her, but I don't have an Aries child. Do you have any Aries children? Have you ever dealt with Aries children?
Sure have. That's my youngest. She has an Aries moon, and she has, like I said, she has Jupiter in the first house. So
Right.
she is there's a forceful energy to it. And she's a little girl, but she plays football. I have to keep her in some kind of activity because, I mean, she's also a Sagittarius stellium and a Leo rising. She's completely all fire. So what I've learned about fire signs is like you have to find ways for them to release their energy, have to find ways for them to keep busy. So for her, I mean, sports, she absolutely wanted to play football, and I was like, you're going to be the only girl on the team, you have to tackle and like hit people and like, and she was like, I don't care, I want to play football. So she did, and she actually ended up on a tournament team over the winter where she traveled to Florida and played football there. Yeah.
Oh my God.
She is
that is so awesome.
But for the Aries children and for all the fire signs, I definitely recommend finding ways for them to express the intense energy that comes through them. Putting them in positions of leadership is helpful. I know with mine, she's a Libra South Node, so that's a big lesson for her, is like putting herself into that Aries energy and putting herself out there. Sports, like I said, going on hikes or long walks or even creative things for Aries and of course for Leo as well, any kind of arts and crafts or any way that they can take that energy and put it out into the world in a positive way. Because if not, there's just going to be energy flying everywhere. There's going to be aggression, there's going to be rough and tumble, wrestling on the floor, jumping on the furniture. She literally trashed like every piece of furniture I have in my house, and she can't help it. She has all this fire, and she has to have somewhere to put it. So definitely, finding things for them to do to keep them busy and to keep that energy, expelled outwardly in beneficial ways.
Absolutely. And they can be argumentative too, that fire energy. It can be really hostile when it feels like it doesn't get the respect it deserves, or no one's listening.
Yes, very, very lots of attitude with her. She has Uranus conjunct her moon as well. So like full rebel in the South Node. So it's South Node, moon, Uranus all conjunct in the ninth house in Aries. So full on rebel, like full on attitude. And it was a huge lesson for me because I had to learn to parent a different way. I was used to very grounded, earth. Well, my oldest is a Leo, but she has a stellium in Virgo. She's an Aquarius rising, and she was like the best child ever. Like she kept her room clean. I didn't have to tell her anything. She would, acts of service, Virgo energy, helping out around the house. And then my middle child is Pisces stellium with a Scorpio moon and a Cap rising. So she was very quiet, kept to herself for the most part, did her own thing. Pretty independent, but also kind of clingy at the same time. You know how the Pisces energy is. And my youngest just came into the world like a ball of fire. And it was like a whole different experience for me because I had to learn to parent a different way with her. I had to learn to give up some of my own control issues and allow her to, roll around on the couch and do other things that my other children never would have done. So, it's really cool how that works. It you know, teaches you so much about yourself when you have that deeper understanding.
Absolutely. I have a Taurus moon daughter. Like I said, she has 3 placements in Virgo. And you have Taurus energy running through your family as well.
I have a
Um,
Taurus, and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was going to say my stepdaughter, who I raised since she was 4, she is a Taurus moon, and both of my parents are Taurus moons, so I know that energy very well.
it was different for me. So I'm a Libra moon, and Taurus and Libra sit at a weird, like quincunxy energy from each other. We're both Venus ruled, but for different reasons. It's coming at it from different, very different accesses. And so she's taught me the importance, and really, like, the biggest lesson with that was, thank God for Uranus this year. Uranus this year and last year really helping her come to terms with change and let change happen. But up until 2018, change was impossible for my Taurus moon. If something shifted and people were moved, or there was a school change, or there was a fight, or there was an unexpected thing happening, she's not okay. She would have a full ass panic attack. And when a Taurus gets angry, that bull comes out. Yes. My daughter is intimidating. When she is upset, none of my children scare me like my Taurus moon daughter. When she finally lets her anger bottle up, she sits me down. Like, as a Pisces woman, I know rage. I've seen it. I've felt it. I know all sides of it, but nothing like that commitment to her. When she's got her talons in something, she will not let it go. It is a stubbornness that comes with a force. Like, it's mine, and I'm going to be quiet about it up until this point, and then all bets are off, and you're going to do as I say, or you're going to see the bull.
Yeah, that's the thing about Taurus energy. Like, Taurus energy is very sensitive. And, you know, they really don't like conflict, but so they'll let things build up and build up and build up. And when it gets to that point, it's like all of that force coming at you at once. Yeah, it's very intense.
There's a beautiful thing with that Taurus energy and pets as well. And I know pets are generally a Virgo thing, because it's like small animals or whatever, but there is something about the animal relation and Venus with that energy, where I find that my Taurus daughter, having a comfort pet, having a support animal element in her life, has made such a massive difference for her.
You know what?
And they will advocate for animals in a way that none of the other signs really do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because my middle daughter, she's a Taurus IC. And the only thing that really helped her when she was going through a lot of stuff was we got her an emotional support kitty. And that literally like changed her whole life. Like, it was a way for her to express her love to this animal, because being a Scorpio moon, it was really hard for her to like open up emotionally on that level to me, you know. So having the animal gave her that comfort and that ability to like open up and express her love and express her heart in a very safe way. And with that Taurus energy as well, you know, it's hard for us to open up like that. It really is. It's hard for us to be vulnerable. We don't like to express our emotions. That's why we hold everything in until it kind of overflows, you know, comes out really intensely. So I agree with that completely.
And I find as well with Taurus energy, there is a comfort with cooking and providing, especially sweets. Like, she will bake anything, and it will be just, hey, can I bake cookies tonight? Just out of nowhere. And she doesn't do it so she can eat the cookies. Where like my Pisces ass, if I'm baking something, it's because I want to taste it. Not her. She just wants that smell in the house. She wants that sense of warmness that comes with that. It's very Venetian, really. And she'll share, and she loves to give away her stuff that she makes, because there's a pride she gets in it.
Right. Yeah, my middle daughter's the same way. So her Pisces stellium is in the second house, which is, you know, Taurus energy, and then she has Taurus rising. So yeah, she's the only one of my children that will just get up and like make the family dinner, or just get up and make, a pan of brownies for no reason. It's very comforting for them, not only the eating of the food, because that's the best part of it for Taurus. They want to taste, and it has to taste good. But the part of just, being of service in a way as an earth sign, and like, giving their heart in that way, since they're not very emotionally expressive, like that's how they share their heart, and that's how they share their love.
Absolutely. Gemini energy. Now, I have third house kids. All of my kids have some third house placements, some pretty heavy third house placements. And actually, Mercury being the ruler, both of my eldest daughters have Mercury in the first house. One has it in Cancer, and the other one has it, and both have it with Venus, actually. They both have that like beautiful mind energy, and they're both considered geniuses. Both of them were both gifted. My eldest daughter, she had to have her curriculum boosted twice in elementary school, because they were like, she's bored. She was a Leo, so she would get dramatic and like start entertaining the class or whatever. But she was always at the top of her spelling bees and at the top of her assignments, to the point where the teachers didn't even give her any credit for it, because they were like, oh, it's easy for you. And she would actually get mad because these other kids who are struggling, they get a B and they get a sticker, and she gets straight A's and nobody pays attention, right? So, and my second daughter is the same. She's super, super smart, to the point where they just stopped. She was like, I don't have to try this hard. I don't have to try. Like, I can get it good. And she's taught me things. Right. I have 3 planets in the third house as well. So like third house energy is really, really big in my house. My partner's a Gemini. There's a lot of Mercury energy in my house. Do you guys have that mercurial frequency in your house too?
Not so much. So my oldest has the Virgo stellium in 7th house, and she very similar to what you were explaining, like in school, so intelligent, straight A's her whole entire life, graduated with a very high GPA, was always taking, honors classes and stuff like that. So that's the mercurial vibe, but nothing Gemini for us really. There's some Virgo going on, but my mom's a Gemini. That's the only Gemini that I really am like super close with. But I'm a Venus in Gemini, so I love Gemini energy. I love the conversation, the communication, the learning new things, and stuff like that. So it's definitely
I find that in this house, because there is such a strong Gemini frequency and Mercury frequency, our board game collection's off the chain. But we will still, as a family, choose to play a game of cards.
Right.
Almost nightly, especially nightly during like holidays. It's regularly at least 2 hands a day. And there's this fun competitive energy that we have with each other, that we just love to play games, especially board games. And that's very Gemini energy. To bring out that mercurial energy, it's to keep things light and have fun.
Yes,
that's the biggest thing.
Gemini's busy. You got to keep them, learning new things and moving, because they'll get super restless if you don't.
Yeah, and there's a lot of impersonations too. You'll get a lot of like accents. You'll get a lot of like impersonations. In my house, my daughters, and I have a Virgo moon and a Virgo sun, and both have strong Mercury placements, and their Mercury face each other. They will literally talk in TikTok quotes, and me and my partner will like look at each other and be like, do you know this one? No, I don't know this one. But they will literally talk in TikTok quotes, and just, it's almost like that ADHD audio response thing, where they just talk back and forth and repeat, like echolocation. They like repeat to each other over and over again. It's so mercurial in this house. And it's just, it's a comedy. Like, honestly, the cameras that we have, the security cameras in my house, they are catching some comedy gold because of the Mercury in this house.
Oh my God, you should post it. That would be so I can only imagine a house full of mercurials just like goofing around all day. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. It's pretty it's on your feet, and it's high energy. It's very high. It's not Mars in that like Aries frequency of like having a point and going somewhere. Mercury is just literally pinball bouncing all over the place, right?
It's very busy, like almost to the point of chaos sometimes. So you got to keep them busy and doing things, and like read a book so you can just like stop talking for a half hour, you know.
We don't have very limited screen time. Like they have probably more screen time than most kids, because when they're not on screen times, it is very busy and mom has the tism. So like I got audio overstimulation and I just shut down. But my kids are all very conscientious of that too, right? So Cancer children, like I said, I have a Cancer rising daughter. Cancer is my 8th house, so she's been a karmic lesson since she was born for me about learning boundaries and accepting that children are going to put their needs before anybody else's needs.
Yes.
That was the big lesson for me with a Cancer child, was they know what they need, and they're going to tell you. And then and if they don't get what they want, they're going to find a way about themselves that may not include you.
Yes. And with the Cancer energy, so I'm a Cancer moon. None of my kids have the big 3 in Cancer. My oldest has Venus in Cancer, and, you know, very loving, you know, they need a lot of physical affection. I know for me, like the lack of physical affection in my childhood affected me like a lot. So, you know, because with the Cancer energy, we just need that comfort. We need to know that we are loved and supported. And just like Taurus, Cancer needs some sense of stability, because our emotions are so powerful and they're always right on the surface. There's no stuffing the emotions down for a Cancer. So a lot of Cancer children are very highly emotional. And if they don't have a safe place to express that, it's going to turn into drama, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one thing about the Cancer, is being very gentle and understanding of their emotional process, because they're going to cry, and they're going to cry a lot. And, you know, as a parent, you have to be able to step back and say, okay, I'm not going to allow this to, you know, throw my energy out of alignment, or I'm not going to allow myself to take this personally. You know, you just kind of have to allow the Cancer child to flow through their emotions, you know, with all the water signs as well. But, you know, especially with the Cancer, they're so sensitive, and they can take things personal, and at the drop of the hat, they can be offended by things, you know. So you have to be aware of that level of sensitivity with the Cancers, and really teaching them, you know, how to have healthy boundaries.
Yeah. Cancer, like Taurus, they're like elephants. They don't forget anything either. They hold on to every pain that they've ever experienced, every form of abandonment that they've interpreted in their experience, and they hold on to that. It's very hard for Cancers to release and move forward, because they haven't gotten to Scorpio yet. They have all those emotions, but they don't know how to transmute them, right? That's something they have to learn through love and relationship, because it sits in the 5th, right, from Cancer. So there's this, like, have to age into that ability to transform.
Yes, absolutely. Cancer energy is like, it's just like having this huge ocean of emotions, and, you know, you have to have somewhere to put that. So, like, you know, for me personally, like, something that helps me when I'm overly emotional is finding, just like the Aries energy, I mean, they're both cardinal signs, finding somewhere to put that energy, like go punch the punching bag, or, you know, go punch your pillow if you have to, or if you have to close your door and sit there and cry it out for an hour or two, like, you got to do what you got to do, because once a Cancer stops feeling their emotions and stops honoring that process, they can get very cold. Once a Cancer is detached from their emotions, they can get very cold, and that kind of turns into like a craziness, like, because they are holding all of this in, you know, with nowhere to put it. So with Cancer kids, you really have to allow them to have that emotional expression, and support them through that.
Absolutely. And understand that when they do create a boundary, even if it's against you, you need to honor it. Like, you should always honor it with children, but it's so much harder for Cancers to put up boundaries. Any of the water signs, really. Scorpio has an easier time, erecting a boundary, but Pisces and Cancer both struggle to make them in the first place. So once they put them up there, even if it's against you, respect it and honor it, because it took everything for them to do that.
Yeah, it's so important as a parent, like, to learn not to take things the kids do personally. And that's like one of my biggest lessons.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Leo children, I have a Leo child. She was also my Cancer rising. And I find that the Leo children, again, there's a lot of themes of fatherhood being very significant. Now, depending on the state of the sun and what aspects it has on it, what house it's sitting in, is really important. Like, if you were born with a Leo rising, Leo sun child, dad's probably all right. Or at least male influence is probably pretty great. But if you were born and that is sitting in the 8th house, like they're a Leo sun and it sits in the 8th house, or they're a Leo rising and it's a Pisces sun, you got a lot of struggle there. You have a huge loss of what fatherhood's supposed to mean, or a big challenge on what masculinity is supposed to be, about what joy and love and pleasure and expansion, all of those type of things are going to be very challenged in that lifetime. Leo rising children have a really hard time when it comes to father. In my experience, especially the water sons, they have the hardest in my experience. The earth sons, not so much. The air sons, they may have a distant relationship, but there's still respect there. But those water sons with the Leo rising, it's a struggle. Dad's a big deal, and there's a big imprint on the child with that. That's a very karmic responsibility. So fostering healthy relationships with other males, I find, is very significant to Leo rising children, because if they have a great uncle, or they have a godfather, or like, your best friend or whatever wants to step in and be like an uncle, those are very important relationships, because dad is going to be a challenge for the most part. Leo rising has a hard time with authority.
I absolutely agree. I'm a Leo rising myself, and then my youngest is a Leo rising, and her father's not in her life, unfortunately, and that was a huge thing for her. I mean, she was very young, but it still affected her on a deep, deep level. And when my partner Trent came into my life, he was able to kind of fill that void as her father, and everything about her improved because of that. Just having that positive male figure in her life that she's able to go, play sports with and go on hikes with, and just, spend time with and do things together. That's so important for the Leo energy. And my oldest daughter is a Leo sun as well. It's right on the cusp of Virgo, 28 degrees. So she has a tendency towards being, having more Virgo energy with the stellium in Virgo. But she also, her father passed away when she was very young. So that.
Is her sun at 29 degrees?
28.
Wow. The archaic degrees, they do speak to like extreme experiences in life, that 28, 29 energy. I mean, really, from like anyone who has dabbled with astrology a little bit knows that there's more than one zodiac, and the two, when they overlap, is between, I think it's 25, I could be wrong, but I believe it's 25 to the 30 degree mark is 29.59. Those are when both zodiacs are in the same frequency. That's when sidereal and tropical are aligning, and you're getting the same frequency regardless. So it's really strong patterns of behavior that you see through that archetype with those degrees.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's been through a lot, but with that Leo energy, she's been able to kind of stay optimistic through it and like overcome. That's the beautiful thing about Leo, is like you can put them in the worst situation and they'll be able to find the best in that. And
they make life their sun. They make things rise.
Absolutely. And for Leo children, creativity, find some way that they can express their creativity, whether it's arts and crafts or performance or, singing or, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You can make anything creative, but having some way for them to express themselves, because that's their purpose in this lifetime, is, putting themselves out there, shining like the sun, expressing their creativity. So
I find that Leo children are really great at being around children that are younger than them as well. They're natural leaders and caretakers at the same time. It's kind of like Aries and Cancer energy combined with Leo. They're really good older siblings. They're very good at protecting, and they're very great entertainers for the younger children because they know they got an audience there, right? They got like little people following them around. They're in their lane.
Yeah, that's my oldest to a T. She was so good with the girls. Like, she helped me out so much with her Leo and her Virgo energy. She was like little mom, she helped me with everything.
Yeah. Speaking of Virgo energy, when we both have Virgo stellium children, that is I tell my children this all the time. I don't have favorites. Every single one of you, I love different parts of you extremely, and other parts of you drive me bananas, but they're very different parts. And my Virgo child, because she has such a beautiful chart, and she has Uranus and Jupiter in opposition. So she has that wild rebel energy, but she makes it fun and favorable. It's not hard. It's not spiky. It's joyful. She could probably lead a revolution of like a dance party. Like she also has a ton of planets in the first house. So she has a lot of personality. She's got a lot of spark. She's got a lot of drive, but ultimately she's a mini mommy. And for the first like 7 years of her life, she had mom and dad. And then the next 6 years of her life, she had mom on weekends and just dad. And he put her in a parentified role. And she ended up mothering our youngest child quite a bit. And my youngest child has a Virgo moon. So they have a sun moon connection. And in many ways, she's been mom. She's been in that role. She's no longer there because I have her full time now. But she is 100% finally finding her groove as being able to be a kid. And it took the first couple weeks. I was like, okay, I'm the parent. I got this. You hands off. You don't have to reprimand them. You don't have to tell them what to do, because it's so natural for her to fall into that caretaking role. Very easy to get taken advantage of. And that's going to be something for the rest of her life where I'm like, no, honey, make that work for you. Don't have it work against you.
Yeah, that Virgo energy, they love to be in service, and they'll find any way to be in service, to just because with the Virgo energy, there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of like, I need to act, I need to do. So, just like the Taurus energy, being in the kitchen with them. Like they love to do things where they can be of service and be helpful. Or, with my oldest, like she was the kid that I never had to tell her to clean her room. Her room was always on point, perfect, because she needed it that way. She loved it that way. She didn't want a messy room, so, and then having a Pisces and a Sagittarius child after that was like, oh my God, like they never have a clean room, like ever, so they just, with the Virgo energy, you got to keep them busy, and they like to help the parents with tasks, just give them little things they can help with. That's what I found with the Virgo energy, and also very intelligent. They're so freaking smart, and you got to watch, because they're watching and they're understanding like everything you're doing, everything you're saying, they're noticing that. And that's with all children, but especially with mercurial children, they're always watching, they're always paying attention, they're always taking in the information and learning.
I have been sequestered by my Virgo child. She has sat me down and been like, so I heard this, so I heard that. And I'm like, okay, listen, back in your kid role. Like if you needed to worry about it, I would bring it to your attention. But they have that like X-ray. And I think probably goes with the fact that there is Scorpio sitting in that first quadrant for them, where it's just natural for them to listen to the deep stuff, to talk about the deep stuff and really get into it. And honestly, it's having as well, when you talk about a Virgo energy, Libra sits in this second house from that energy, meaning that balance and keeping everything at peace is second nature for them. That's where that expression, I recently found out, the expression second nature comes from the second house, because it is your natural way of being. Right. So like having that need and that sensitivity to when things are off kilter and needing to fix it and being the ultimate fixer, that's a very Libra energy happening in the doing of the second house for Virgo.
Yeah, and my oldest is also a Libra moon, so she has that Virgo and that Libra going on, always trying to keep things, balanced, harmonious, like doing whatever it takes to kind of bring that harmony and peace back into the family. They take so much on themselves, though. That's the other thing you got to watch for, because they will take it all on themselves, trying to keep the peace and the harmony for everyone else, and they'll take on stuff that's not theirs to take on.
Absolutely, they will. And it can be taken advantage of by teachers, by co-parents, by grandparents. It can be taken advantage of very, very easily and manipulated against them. Having Pisces sitting seventh means that manipulating them is quite simple, because all you got to do is make them feel sorry for you. And so that is a dangerous thing. So protecting your Virgo child, I think, comes with getting them to understand people on a psychological level, getting them to understand and be able to pick out who's really asking for help and who is just using you for your abilities.
Absolutely.
What do we have next? Oh, I guess Libra children. So my son has Venus and the moon conjunct in Libra. I have a Libra moon. It is identical on the exact degree to the minute he was born on my lunar return with Venus there. He is a Sagittarius rising, 12th house Scorpio sun, 11th house Libra moon and Venus. So he has a lot going on in that last quadrant, which means, this is something I had to learn about. My son has pretty heavy autism, ADHD. He's had physiotherapy, he's had psychologist help, he's had a social worker at school, he's been put in a special class, he's been taken out of the special class, he's had special assessments, he's had things brought in. And to this day, I still have to advocate, he doesn't learn in a typical fashion. He will never work like a typical child. That's not every child. That format of school works really well for a lot of kids, but there are some children that is actually detrimental to try to make them do things of that typical nature. And I find with Libra children, because they're so sensitive, when they're not being, when they feel like the world isn't trying to balance with them, they just throw up their hands, especially the boys. They're just like, whatever, I'll just sit by myself. I'll just be by myself. And you'd think Libra wants to be social, but if they feel rejected, they're gone.
Absolutely.
Will not put up with rejection whatsoever.
Yeah. Libras definitely need relationships. They need connections. They need communication. But on the opposite side of that, like you just said, if anyone messes with them, that's also cardinal energy. They're not going to have it. They're not going to take it. They're very independent in that way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they express themselves best through their artistic fashions because it is Venus ruled. They are great singers. They have beautiful abilities to draw and create. They have such a nice element of being able to create something beautiful for someone. My son will regularly draw me pictures or paint me pictures or create something for me on a whim. And a natural talent for him and for myself is seeing how fabric drapes, seeing what colors go together naturally. Like the aesthetic is a natural, without having to think about it, talent that Libra provides. And the more that you encourage that, the more they'll express it. But Libra needs encouragement. You can't expect them to just go into their hole and create and produce and produce and produce and produce. It may be related to Capricorn in the fact that it's cardinal, but they need that relation encouragement, or they honestly give up. They're like, I guess I'm not good at this if they don't get that encouragement.
Yeah, like they can, like I said, they can be very independent in that way, but it's like they become independent when there's other issues going on out here where they feel like they have to kind of detach from that. But for the most part with Libra, it really does help to kind of be their cheerleader. They need to have that back and forth communication. They need to have someone to say to them, wow, you're doing great, keep up the good work. They need that. And the Libra energy, like you said, it's very sensitive. And I also find it to be very psychic because it's so connected. It's Venus energy, so it's heart energy, but it's also, mind is air. So it's mind, so I find a lot of Libras, they're so sensitive because they're very empathetic and they can easily take on everyone's crap. So easily take on everyone's crap. So it's important for them to have some kind of mentor or something to kind of help them to talk through things, and also just like Cancer, creating boundaries as well.
Oh yeah, it's a big lesson for them. I find as well with Libra children, my mother had 3 placements in Libra. I have a Libra moon. My son has a Libra moon. Music is a form of communication for all the air signs, but especially for Libra energy. Being able to turn on his music and listen to his music is a beautiful way that he has found regulation for himself. Getting out of a mood, moving his mood, changing his mood comes very easily with music and dance.
Yes. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like my Libra moon daughter, she has a beautiful voice, and that's one of the ways that she's able to kind of release things that she's holding on to is through the singing and through the voice. So it's very important for the Libra to have some kind of way where they can express the air energy, express the heart, ways that they can express the heart. That's where the creativity comes into play, and the singing and the music, and they love to create this beautiful atmosphere for themselves. So it's also very important for Libra to have an atmosphere that's harmonic for them. Libra does not want to be in a trashed room. Like creates confusion and overwhelm for them. So they need to have a place where they can kind of just like Virgo in a way, where they can put things where they go and just have a place that's very peaceful for them.
Yeah. Now, not all, I do want to touch back on Virgo. Not all Virgo children are organized. I find that the Virgo moon children are better at it. The Virgo stellium children can be better at it, but it really depends on what house it falls in. Yes. I have a Virgo daughter that, and like I said, she has a Taurus moon. Her room is a pigsty. However, if I move anything or clean her room, she's furious because she knows where everything is in her organized chaos. So it really depends on what house it falls in, and the other placements of the chart. But for the most part, Virgo does have their order. Whether it's an order that looks aesthetic, that's a different thing, but it is their order.
Yeah, it's those Virgos with the Libra energy that probably have more of the aesthetic going on. And then because I've met some Virgos that, my grandma was a Virgo, and she was actually a hoarder. Like she had stuff everywhere, but she knew exactly where everything was, where's this in the kitchen? She's like, oh, lift up that paper and it's under there somewhere. Like, yeah, so you see that in Virgos a lot too.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Where were we? We were at Scorpio children. So you have Scorpio placements, and you have Scorpio in your children.
So I only have Pluto and Scorpio, but I'm Scorpio and Pluto dominant, and I have Pluto like aspecting so much stuff in my chart. So I relate to that Scorpio energy so much. But my middle daughter has the moon in Scorpio, and they are very intense children, and she is the only child that I've had difficulty with as far as like mental health wise and rebellion wise. the thing about Scorpios, they have a lot of emotions, but they are not as comfortable with expressing them outwardly. And if they don't know how to transmute them properly, that will build up, and it can create, I mean, it's Pluto energy, so destruction, if they don't know how to transmute it properly. So what I'm learning with my Scorpio moon daughter is, you have to kind of guide them in the way of emotional processing, in the way of allowing themselves to be vulnerable, to express through the emotions that they're holding within themselves. Because with my experience with Scorpio energy, they will hold stuff in, and they'll just lock themselves in a room and brood around all day and not do anything about it. It's almost like they get into this energy where they enjoy being pissed off and depressed and angry, because it's like they're used to it. They're used to having those very intense feelings all the time. So with her, they will try to push you away, but what they really need is support and love. So if you can find a way to find a balance in that, because as far as my daughter, she's not very touchy-feely. She's not the kind of kid, with my youngest fire baby, she's hanging all over me every second of my life, right there attached to me. But with my Scorpio moon child, you actually have to kind of go approach her and sit down and try to get her to talk to you, and a little pat on the back or a rub on the back, you know what I mean? To make her feel loved and noticed and everything like that. So it's definitely been a journey with the Scorpio energy. Most importantly for them, and just like the Aries, because they're both Mars rolled signs, they need somewhere to put all that emotion. And it's not like the raw Mars energy, it's deeper than that. There's more depth to it, there's more power behind it. So boxing, something where they can really come from the core of themselves and find a way to express that. There's so many ways that you can do that. Boxing comes to mind because that's something I wanted to get my daughter into, but she got over it quick. But something again, creative, or using the voice as a release, the singing, just any kind of way where they can take that energy and express it. They're not great with vulnerability, in my experience. So, they need that extra support and guidance to know that it's okay to express your intense emotions. It's okay. This is who you are. It's okay to feel that way. And it's okay to find ways that are healthy to release it, like journaling, exercise. But, with the fire signs and with the Scorpio energy, I find it very important for them to have some type of release that way.
Kind of physical release. Yeah. But we actually signed our son up for soccer this summer because he needs to, it's hard for them to socialize. It's really hard. They'll put themselves out there, and if they get, again, he has a Libra moon, right? So if he gets a touch of rejection, never mind. I'm not going to, it just smells rejection, and he's out 100%. My son also is, I'm lucky to have a boy that is just such a boy. There is cars, there is bugs, there is dirt, there is stinky underwear. There are all the elements of the classic boy energy. He's got it. But at the same time, this is a weird paradigm for that masculine energy to grow up in. This is not a cohesive, encouraging masculinity type of society that we're living in right now. If anything, it's kind of deterring and pushing away from those classic energies. And I'm not talking about patriarchy here. I'm talking about actual masculinity, and roughhousing with your kid is discouraged, even though psychologically it's been proven to be great for kids. There's so many elements that our society is not supportive of that masculinity energy coming through.
Yeah, that's so true.
But I was born with 3 placements in Scorpio in my 12th house. My father was a Scorpio rising with Mars on the rising, and my son has Mercury in retrograde. Hi! And the sun in Scorpio.
That's my fire baby. Huh? My fire baby, huh? Yeah.
My Scorpio is stealing food right now. No, you're not taking the whole pot of pasta. Just eat it out of the pot. Gross. So we've got a couple more signs left, but we are running low on time. So why don't we do a part 2, and we'll come back and we'll talk about the other signs, and we'll do another, maybe if we get any questions on this after we air it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Let's do it.
Awesome. I think so. I think that would be great. Okay, so we'll announce that to everybody. I'm going to record this later tonight and post it up on Facebook for everybody to see, and you can watch it post live. But thank you anybody who joined us. Thank you, Amanda, for hanging out with me and talking mom shop. Thank you, Mr. Fireshine.
Yeah, it's been a while for me that since I've I had to take some time off to hermit for a little while. So this is the first podcast I've done in like 6 months at least. It's been a while. So this is really awesome, and it's going to help me get back into it. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great, baby. We'll talk soon, and you have a wonderful night, mister.
You too. Thank you.
All right, everybody. We'll talk soon. Thanks for coming. Bye now.